You've been with her too long. It's okay, I'm just saying. What if she told you that she still likes you and she wants you to come back? Would you go and pretend like I'm nothing? Although you want her, want her, want her. I need you back, back, back. 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 Tryna figure who I am, and I want us both to understand. No misunderstandings, things left unsaid. No, I don't, no, I don't, no, I don't. What if she told you that she still likes you and she wants you to come back? Would you go and pretend like I'm nothing? Although you want her, want her, want her. I need you back, back, back. 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 You can have your cake and eat it too. If you choose that you will lose me too. Can go around and be scared of losing you when you love someone else. What if she told you that she still likes you and she wants you to come back? Would you go and pretend like I'm nothing? Although you want her, want her, want her. I need you back, back, back. 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 I need you back.
Microphone good? Oh, wow. That's how I'm going to start. Hey, everybody. And welcome to Dualitea, Morning Cup with me. I am here, present in this space with my cup of tea this morning on a Wednesday. I have 17, and we're going to do things a little different today. So today's topic is going to be on homage and giving credit and paying forward, kind of the information that we learn and how we receive things, and giving acknowledgement to that, because it's really important to be grounded in that. For me, when especially when I'm amongst transition, I think it's always really important to go to gratitude. And that's something that my friend Emilio had always said to me, is to return back to gratitude. And that statement within itself is homage paid in a gratitude, like, kind of statement, like he had put me on to that premise and that thought, of kind of returning back to gratitude. So in acknowledging him in this moment is paying homage to the information that has came to me. Something that I see so often is I feel that a lot of individuals can sometimes get caught up with wanting to kind of own information and hold on to it as if it's only been generated from themselves. And it's not to limit, and it's not to minimize the fact that, of course, we do have things that come from ourselves and we are sources of information. But that comes from a line of things. That comes from our ancestors. That comes from our guides. It comes from, alive. And on the other side, that comes from our teachers, our higher self, our spirit of learning. So even when things don't get acknowledged in that way, I feel like it kind of short circuits things, in the sense of, if I created this shirt and that wasn't acknowledged in a space that, and almost like taking ownership of, that's kind of short circuiting the energy. And it's kind of like our ego trying to claim things. And when we give gratitude, we're leaving space for the love and the energy to circulate, not only through you, but through every person, being, and thing that got you to where you're at. So with that being said, in this episode, I want to kind of go into homage and, where I am and how I got here. So first and foremost, with acknowledging my parents, acknowledging my family, and to getting here and to being in this space, being alive, period, right? And to God, to Creator, and to everything good in all directions. And, for bringing me in the space to have a platform to speak and to share my voice and to share, flow with whoever it is that resonates with the podcast, with Hub 17, with these different platforms, and kind of bring my flavor to it and my duality. And that's, duality to me is, it's yin and yang, it's the balance, it's the things that we do out in public, and it's the things that we do behind closed doors. I'm here to be transparent. I'm here to share all of my truth. I'm here to embarrass myself, make myself uncomfortable. I'm here to learn, to grow, and to thrive with y'all. And the fact that I can even sit up here and, do this in general is like really big for me. I've always been a person who's been very shy. So that's been a really big thing, and growth. And also being up here alone for the first time, it's also a big step and something different and new for me. So I'm also grateful for, the transition, and grateful for Ariel for creating, being the catalyst to all of this, and creating the podcast and the platform, the idea, the concept of it, and us birthing everything together. And, so I send that love and that homage to her. I send the love and the homage to Nev for, working with me on this podcast for a little bit and helping us to know what works and what doesn't work, and and going through the motions, it's so important that, I know it could be a little chaotic. The fact that I do share everything on here. So, because I'm not trying to hide anything from you guys. So, with that being said, it's like, I had two different podcast co-hosts, and now I'm doing this on my own, and that could seem a little turbulent or whatever the case is, but that's just the real. That's just what happened. And I chose to invite you guys on that journey with me because I felt like it would be good to see what's actually going on and why it's going on. And that's why with both cases, I was like, all right, well, if this is what we're going to do, let's break up on the podcast, because that's the type of intensity I'm always on. But with that being said, going to the hi, Christine. Thank you for tuning in. Going back to the cycle of paying homage and just being grateful for things, I find grounds me so much when I need to remember what I'm doing and why I'm doing it for. I'm here not only to just be here. It's not, it would be a lot more comfortable for me to not be here, right? But there's things that need to be said and things that need to be spoken in the space. And a little bit of what I do is kind of to bring some spirituality and reminders of the sacredness within ourselves to others. And it's the only reason I'm on Staten Island, to be honest. It's like Spirit had shown me really strongly. I had moved out to Colombia, and Spirit showed me really strongly that I needed to be on Staten Island, and that it would kind of be easy for me. In Colombia, of course, difficult in other ways, but it would have been easy for me to adapt. I already had found, a bunch of people that were very spiritual and into a lot of the things that I was into and things like that. And that's kind of where I was at with it then. But I meditated on it, and it was very clear that I needed to come back here because there was really not much of a spiritual community out here. There really wasn't and if so, not really balanced. So what I mean by that when I say that is one spectrum and not the other. What is duality? What is wholeness? Wholeness is both sides. It's all facets of ourselves, which is going to involve a lot more than love and light, which is going to involve a lot more than just, butterflies and rainbows. When we think of spirituality, it doesn't have to be like we're all smiling and we're meditating and we're doing yoga and things like that. Sometimes it's like purging in a bucket and crying your eyes out. Sometimes it's, being super vulnerable and talking about things that make you highly uncomfortable and looking crazy for it. It's a lot of times you might feel crazy. A lot of times you might look crazy. But the thing is, that's what healing involves. And that to me is spirituality, and that to me is sacred. And that's the different things that I embody and that I work with, and the individuals and elders and teachers that I personally learned from are of that way and are of both and are of that balance. So I was really not even told, but barked at and kind of yelled at by Spirit to get my ass back over to Staten Island and start facilitating things. And it took a little bit. I was kind of sitting in the back seat of moon ceremonies for a while. Like, I would set up a bunch of stuff, and I would set up the altar, and I would set up all the pillows and everything, and I would put the prayer into everything, and then I would sit down like as if I just got there. I wouldn't take credit for anything. And there was no homage, there was no energy kind of going back to me because of that. And I had to understand why I wasn't feeling full and why I was feeling kind of off. And it took a little bit. And, my friend Emilio really just kind of pushed me and was like, listen, you got to do this. You got to be in the forefront. You need to host this with us, And I was like, I don't know if I can do it. I'm scared. I got to talk in front of people. That it requires a lot of people looking at me. And that's a lot of energy. And I'd rather just sit here and pretend like I'm just sitting here. Because I would have been comfortable. But we're not put in positions to be comfortable. we're put in positions to be uncomfortable because that's where you know, we thrive. That's where we change. That's where transition happens. Transition doesn't happen in just a chill space, you know. It's in the darkness. Like a seed is going to crack open and germinate in the darkness. It's going to, within itself, in that space there, it has the ability to just know its own energy. I feel like a lot of us can get confused on where we begin and where others end, and how you get to know yourself and continue your growth and your healing is to sit with yourself and get to know your own energy. How can you expect to know where you start, especially for like the highly sensitive empaths? I really don't like throwing around that word because I know how used it is right now, but you know, for lack of a better word, the feely feelers, the deep ones, the ones that walk into a room and feel that person's back pain. You know, it's like all these different things that can happen. Or, you know, we all have the ability to do these things. Some are more sensitive than others. That doesn't mean that you're more or less like adequate than anyone else. It's the sense that some people have more sensitivities, but we all have the ability to tune in and to realize like, okay, everybody in this room is upset. Now all of a sudden I feel mad or I feel sad. And that's empathy. You know, that's feeling other people's feelings. And the issue that can sometimes come up with that is understanding and identifying what is yours and what is someone else's, and also not owning what isn't yours. When it's not yours to own. It's not yours to dissect. You know, it's yours to realize, acknowledge, you know, and give back. You can send that love to them, but you don't own it. And with your own, to validate yourself and to create a safe space for you to feel whatever it is that you're feeling. And no matter how it's coming up or how it may look or feel, to know that it is valid, despite what anyone else may say, think, or feel. Whatever you feel and say is valid. So that took a shift from where we were going, but it needed to be said. So I wanted to just kind of also touch base on this episode, since it's the first one and it's the one that I'm out here by myself. We're going to be doing this every week. So it's going to be Wednesday morning, 10:30, half hour tea session. And this is kind of I'm going to have a general topic, but it's going to be open to channeling. It's going to be open to whatever it is that needs to come out. So Wednesdays for me are really important. Why are Wednesdays important? Wednesday was the day of the week I was born. So on Wednesdays, I fast. I only consume liquids and I pray. So this is my day of prayer. So the only thing I do on Wednesdays are things that I want to do. I take off of work. I don't have anything that I don't want to do on Wednesdays, besides the things that I feel and that my spirit feels aligned with. So my spirit feels aligned with doing this podcast in this way. Hub 17, I'm very grateful and pay my homage to Kenny and to every individual that created this space and made all of this possible. And just grateful that I'm able to come here and just kind of do it. You know, like I knew if I would have thought about it too much, I just wouldn't have did it. So there's naturally obstacles and things that come in the way when you're about to make a big leap. And that certainly happened last night. But I'm here anyway. You know, it's the same kind of thing that happened the other day. But I was there anyway too. And my spirit is strong and will always go where it's meant to go. And even if I take the scenic route, I'm still going to be on my way. So Wednesdays, I wanted to create the consistency. So the yang, right? What is yang? Yang is divine masculine. Yang is the white side of the yin, right? It's the divine masculinity that we have within ourselves, that sun energy, right? So this was going to be my yang, the consistent every Wednesday half hour. And then the flow and the yin is the content that's on it. The content that's on it is going to be 90%, 99% channeled. I have like 3 things on my notepad, and I barely talked about them. It's more in that way where it's like the ebb and flow. It's like just like everything else. How do we create balance? That is the whole purpose of this podcast, is to talk about how we create balance. So in that, we're going to talk about all spectrums of self within me and then within the people that I interview. So in the future, whether I interview people here, but I'm also going to have my microphone at my house where I'll be also doing the podcast. And that will be kind of the other spectrum of, that's my yin. And then the yang will be more of a structured questionnaire that I'm going to ask the interviewers. So I can take y'all home with me and like bring you in my home and we can talk there. And then we can be here with like more of the professional-esque to it, because my setup at home is certainly not this. And this is really cool. And I'm learning about it. And I'm learning about it all. And I thank everybody who's tuning in. I think everybody who's tuned in from the beginning and, understood and had the patience for knowing that, like, I don't know anything, you know what I mean? And I'm just learning every day. And especially when it comes to anything podcast or media related, it's funny because now that I say it out loud, I was actually in media when I was in elementary school. And that's so funny because I didn't even tie those things together until that thought just happened right now. But I was so shy. I used to try to get out of everything. I used to try to the same thing with my science projects. I would always try to like get out of it. All of a sudden I'm sick. Like I'm just sick for a long time. I've created videos for my media projects and not handed them in. Because I'm like, that involves people seeing it now. That's different. Now I'm here having a podcast and it's on my own, and that is wild. And I'm grateful for growth. And I've only gotten here from consistently embarrassing myself and putting myself in uncomfortable positions. Things aren't always going to be perfect. Things aren't always going to look perfect. But if you come with a full heart, open mind, and a clear intention, it will be real and that will be felt. So, that's why I wear what I'm wearing, like authenticity over aesthetic. It's like, it doesn't mean you can't be aesthetic while you're being authentic. You can do that too. That's great, but it's not the priority. The priority is the authenticity. And that's why the greater sign is on it. It's important for us to understand our integrity and, our gratitude in things with everything that we do, and just understand where everything comes from. And that was the purpose and the premise for this show, and to just kind of touch base on that and just be a reminder of everything comes from something. Everything comes from somewhere. So we can't be gluttonous about what we're trying to keep within ourselves. And we can't hoard our knowledge either. And that's why I'm doing this, because I kind of got yelled at for doing that. Was never doing it intentionally. But this is just another platform and extension to move forward and to share what comes to me and what was shared with me, because it may or may not be useful. Could be really great. You might see it and resonate with it and be like, wow, like that, I needed to hear that. And then you might hear it and be like, that's mad triggering. I don't like her or what she's saying. Either way, it's medicine. So, receive it as you want to. Sometimes medicine doesn't taste good. It could be sour sometimes. Sometimes it could be sweet, but it really depends on what kind of sickness you have. So always keep that in mind when things make you feel ways, because our reactions and our triggers are the biggest teachers that we could have. And good or bad, the way we respond to feedback is very telling of where we're at with our trauma, where we're at with our growth, and how grounded we are in that, knowing what are we choosing to make conscious, like what subconscious behaviors are we choosing to make conscious, and what are we willing to talk about? And if we're not willing to talk about these things, why aren't we willing to talk about them? So yeah, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to do this. And I could sit here. I'm looking around at things. I'm like, I could just sit here and tell you how I'm grateful for all the things on the table and everything and how they came from. I'm grateful for this mug, for the artist that made it, and symbology of duality perfectly on here. The tea inside the cup that came from Zen, Trading Post, and Carol and Anthony, and giving reverence and honor to them, to the honey that came from my elder Zen, and came from a good friend of mine, and to have met some of the bees too is really incredible. To have met some, so I'm grateful to the bees. It's like when we do prayer, or when we sit and give honor and reverence back to source, it always just feels good, because it's like, when you do something for someone and you don't do it for the acknowledgement. Like, let me get that clear. You're not doing it for the acknowledgement. You're not doing it for the homage, or in particular. Like, but when you receive it, it feels so good. You're like, oh, I'm being seen for like something that I did. That's really cool, And it's not, when it's not the basis of why you're doing it, that could be something that's super healthy and really awesome, where you can be like, oh wow, and it feels good to give it too. When people make a difference in your life, and when you learn from people and individuals, it feels good to give them that back, because that's a mutual energy. That's an energy exchange, right? Anytime we give something, we should always, like, every time we take something, we should always give something in return. Mutual energy, the equivalent exchange should always exist. Shout out to Full Metal Alchemist, and shout out to Ariel for putting me on to Full Metal Alchemist. It's these little things that may seem really minimal are really big tools that kind of expand and create really incredible changes in our life. And it's the little things. My sister has always said that. My dad had always said that. Like, it's the little things that we do that change our lives. My sister would say that to me all the time. Shout out to my sister Nicole. Like, she had always said, like, you're such an extreme person, because I'm the type of person, I'm like, oh, I need to completely uproot and change everything. Like, everything about everything, I need to completely make it so intense, and it can't be gray. It has to be black or white, and this is my intensity. But that's fleeting. Anything that's that extreme and intense is like fleeting. What you stay grounded in, and what you have continual growth for, is those little things. It's what you think about when you wake up. It's the writing down your dreams once you wake up. It's tea that you make in the morning, and the gratitude you give the water. Anyone who knows me, anyone who has ever had a conversation with me, probably ever, I talk about water, and I talk about how to give the gratitude back to the water. Water is one of the first medicines, if not first medicine, that we need to pay attention to. And water is so important. It does so much for us, to us, in so many spectrums. It's 70% of us. When we consume water, and when we work with water, to look at it and be like, thank you. There's studies on it. If you want to come from more of a science-based, I'm not just spiritual, and I don't look at science. Like, this is also duality. You look at Dr. Ozumi, that's Dr. Ozumi's Reiki. My bad. There's a doctor, I'm forgetting his name at this moment, but he's the water doctor. You'll know if you just look up water doctor, he's the guy, He's done studies on it where he's said to water, like, I hate you, or put water, or put things near things that aren't good. You see the molecular structure. It looks grimy. It's like, oh yeah, like, I don't like you either. Like, water is a reflection, and it's going to mirror to us what we give it, just like everything else in our reality. So if we're like, I love you so much, thank you, thank you for being you, and thank you for cleansing me. Like, water can cleanse you, water can purify you, water can clear you, but water can also drown you. Like, water is a force, and it is gentle, and it is dangerous, and then there's in betweens, just like us. So when we look at the water and we see how we treat the water, even on a global scale, we can see how we treat ourselves. The same thing with the earth. When we look at the earth and we see how we treat the earth, we see how we treat ourselves. And I used to always say we see how we treat our women when we look at the way we treat Mother Earth. And, we need to do better. We need to do better in all spectrums. And how we can do better is, of course, you can go out and you can do these major things and go on water missions and pick up bottles and do all this stuff. And that's important. Yes, absolutely. But you can start with the little things. And that's saying thank you to your water. That's praying to the water to cleanse you when you're not feeling so good when you go to take a shower. That's giving homage to the things that came before us, giving homage to the elements. It doesn't always have to be so theatrical and crazy. We don't have to go in and like have all of these different, we can have, the different crystals and things that we resonate with, but these are all tools and reminders of things that are on the inside, right? What's on the inside are elements. The 5 elements are within each of us. So these little things, even in homage to people, is always going to go back to self. It's always going to go back to spirit. It's always going to go back to homage, integrity, respect. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. So thank you all for tuning in. And thank you for sitting with me on the first cup of Dualitea. I also wanted to shout out Jenny Bays for this lipstick. I love it. This is my first time I'm wearing it. And I just wanted to make sure that I shout you out too. I just looked at myself. I was like, wait, I forgot something. So I'm happy that I caught it. So thank you to everybody that tuned in. Thank you, Christine, for sharing your love and also like commenting and speaking with me and being you, because you're incredible. And I have so much love for you and reverence for you. Thank you for being you and being so inspiring. And thank you for everyone who is listening now, who will listen to it in the future. And that's going to be it for today. So I hope you all have a great day and stay tuned for some more Dualitea.